the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. The Mayo Experience. The Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, the Week 1 DraftKings picks, lineups, breakdown, by game, by position. We're going to try to get this all going for you. Tambo from ShipItNation.com is here, and we have a new third for the season, Tambo, John Breslin from 4for4.com. If people want to get in on John's work, the optimizer, all of the tools, 4for4.com/Mayo is where you get it done. But, John, how are you feeling about Week 1?
I'm excited. This is like our version of Christmas Eve. We had a little appetizer portion on Thursday night last night. We get a little other appetizer portion tonight with the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil. But like the main dish starts Sunday morning. I can't wait.
Tambo, are you guys going live on Sunday morning?
We are 10 a.m. Eastern. Ship It Nation YouTube station at Ship It Nation. You can find us there.
All right, well, let's talk some Thursday night football. I thought the first half was fantastic, Tambo.
Yeah, it reminded me of the, except it got way worse, actually. But when the Ravens won the Super Bowl against the 49ers and the lights went out, it wasn't anything close to that. But it's just brutal when you get like a lightning in the area, an hour delay. And I said East Coasters in shambles. You and I, Pat, were on the furthest East Coast there can possibly be. And I was in shambles. It certainly was not ideal to be up that late watching game one of the season and then getting nothing in the second half at all.
John, what time zone are you in?
So I'm in the Eastern time zone, which was a surprise to me when you guys are like, no, we're even more Eastern than that.
Yeah. So I heard lightning delay and I was like, you know what? Well, because then they instantly put out it was going to be basically an hour before they got going again. It's like, I'm not waiting up till it would have been 12:30 my time and then to come back to the game. It's like, you know what? I can go to bed. I can put this on tape. I just won't look at the score in the morning and figure out the rest. When I wake up with the kids at 6 a.m., I can watch it. And it was great because I went and checked out all my Underdog slips. They all lost, so that's always a lot of fun. Code Mayo at Underdog, by the way, to go sign up and get yourself the triple bonus. There's another free pick for both the Friday night game and for the Week 1 Sunday slate if you want to get in now if you are a new user. But my teaser, which I thought was going to be pretty good. I didn't know what Dallas was going to do, Tambo, but teasing the Eagles down, teasing the over that, like teasing that down and then going over it. I didn't expect to see 0 points after I woke up, though.
I was just going to say, good thing you got the teaser because that's the one, right? Somebody posted today. It's like, it honestly, I think it was posted in the sample is like 271-1. Or something like for the games that go over after that instance. So it's the first time ever or something that hasn't happened.
John, did you have any takeaways from watching the game? Like, do we expect A.J. Brown to be a non-factor the entire season? I know he came in with the hamstring, and that's usually a good indicator that he's going to go under a lot of his numbers, but basically no Devonta Smith. Barkley looked good.
Yeah, so it's just one game, right? And things weren't that dramatically different than we expected. Receivers sometimes get shut down a little bit more than we expect, and they just bounce right back with 180 yards, 2 weeks. I think my main takeaway, and I like the fact that we get these like single game contests before the main slate on Sunday, is just to remember like how different things can be from what we're expecting. Like once they snap the ball and start playing, like Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until Javonte Williams gets 2 touchdowns in the first game when you were expecting a split backfield. Things are not just going to play out exactly how we thought they would play out all off season once they start playing the games.
I made 4 notes about the game, just things that really stuck out to me. So, John, I'm going to go to you first. Javonte Williams had a good fantasy night. It felt like he kind of sucked in real life.
Yeah, that's true. We just get the fantasy points that they put up. We just get that number. So the 2 touchdowns, counts a lot. We'll see how things like evolve with Jaden Blue throughout the season.
Yeah, so Miles Sanders puts the ball on the ground, Tambo. Jaden Blue was inactive for the game. Like, do you think this is a legitimate workhorse role for Javonte? Like, it's going to be his until it's not, and maybe he can even overcome some bad games? Because if he doesn't score those touchdowns, he's basically doing nothing in this game.
Yeah, I think it's all how you look at it. Like I thought John summarized it pretty good, but I think in the sense of, it is what it is. Like he plays for Dallas. That's the situation. Jaden Blue was scratched before the game or not inactive for the game. I should say it that way. So everyone it was such a whirlwind of emotions last night. It's like, oh, Jaden Blue's out. It means this. Oh, Miles Sanders is the guy now. Oh, Miles Sanders fumbles. Go back to this. Like that's how it always is. To John's point, week one, lots can happen. That was my biggest takeaway of the night, at least, was that this is the, expect the unexpected, the big brother line, but it's certainly something when you're coming into this, week one and seeing like, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown sucks. Like you hear all these different things and it's just, it's game one. Anything can happen. It's going to be the same on Sunday. Everyone thinks they know everything and then they know nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have admitted to the fact that I just, once you embrace, John, that you actually do know nothing, it's very zen.
Yeah, the way I prepare for my week one of NFL DFS is actually I look back at my redraft leagues, right? My home fantasy football leagues, my redraft leagues. I look at the round one picks from the previous year and look at like how many of them just completely failed. Like in the first couple, early rounds of your redraft league, like this league always ends up much different than we expect, and it's good to keep that in mind, before you get too much conviction behind your plays for week one.
Yeah. Point number 2, Tamball, I'll go to you with this first. And you can brainstorm it. And John, you can do the same thing. Is Jalen Hurts the best slider of any quarterback by far?
Just thinking about it. Yeah. Like there's nobody else out there. And really, I don't know, last night they made him look really good on defense when they did the same result for like all 3 tries, the 2 touchdowns he scored and the play that sealed it at the end of the game with the chance to get the ball back. Just no option there. And I guess someone said, oh, well, AJ Brown would eat if they did put something on him, but I would force that throw before I would let him run around on you like that. The guy is extremely speedy when he gets going and he's got that strength. We know. So if you're not getting him early, he's getting that first down on you anyway. So I would risk it to get after him. Yeah,
John, the reason I bring it up is that I don't think he was hit on his first 5 carries. 2 of them were touchdowns in the game. And even like when he was you see a lot of quarterbacks, they're going to go full speed. Like Bo Nix does this and it's like terrifying. Josh Allen used to do it. Trevor Lawrence is the worst offender of anyone in football, that they get going so fast that they properly slide, but they're just moving so fast that they slide into hits and hurt themselves. Hurts slides and stops and then no one touches them.
Yeah, I don't love the slide. Because it puts the defenders in such a difficult position. I know we're trying to protect the quarterbacks, but it's a weird element of they can't touch the guy, and then it looks like he might slide. And they've made that illegal now, but there's just too much uncertainty. Like when you're trying to make a split-second decision, it can make plays go really awry. So I know we have to protect the quarterbacks, but it's a weird element of the game.
It is weird, but the way that Hurts does it, he doesn't get touched when he does it. Like the other guys put themselves into that situation that you talked about where we even saw it with Blankenship last night when he just tuned Jake Ferguson. Like he wasn't trying to headshot him. It's just he was in the middle of making his hit to break up the play, and then Ferguson kind of put his head down. He absolutely nailed him. Like he didn't try to hit him in the head. And that's what happens, I find, Tambo, on these QB slides is that, they're giving themselves up. The guy's already in mid-tackle, and they slide like into him at full speed.
Yeah, that's what I think. You mentioned the guy, Trevor Lawrence. We know one of the worst hits that we've seen, but like even again, was it dirty? Yeah, it looked like it if you watch the replay, but people are having to slow it down to like 0.1 second of a frame at a time to prove if it's dirty or not. We all probably think it's dirty, and it probably was, but just that being an option to be open to. So back to your point, I guess, like Hurts is really good at it. I thought the Ferguson thing was just another bad throw from Dak. The previous one to Ferguson was behind him when he beat his defender. The second one was kind of, you saw Ferguson almost look up to be like, shit, this is going to suck. And then it did suck. And that's what happens sometimes. But, you could blame Dak or blame whoever. I just think that was more of that situation than the slide factor.
Point number 3, John. George Pickens is going to have some massive games this season.
Yeah, I think I'll have some big games, but I think you'll have some games that aren't as good. The Cowboys' schedule is not the best. Like the NFC East, all loaded up on defense because you've got such good offenses, Commanders and the Eagles. I think I'll have some big games. We'll see. We'll see how the Cowboys season goes. I'm not sure. I'm a huge believer, but it definitely helps to have Dak back and healthy, hopefully for a full season.
It just looked like to me, Tambo, that I mean, you had Adoree Jackson on CeeDee Lamb to start the game, so why wouldn't you just throw it to him over and over when he's absolutely burning the guys? But the deep shots downfield, like they were intentionally trying to get those to Pickens. He was pass interfered, I believe, on 2 of them. Another one just kind of sailed just by him. And then, of course, he took his typical George Pickens stupid penalty to try to penalize the team. They were able to get that one back, though. I think that was actually a part of the Blankenship drive. But Pickens, like, over longest reception, I think is going to hit more often than not this year.
It's certainly possible. I mean, the first one I remember with the pass interference where he still got his one hand out and almost caught it, that would have been a very impressive catch. And it was clean, clear pass interference. But like you said, I really think it speaks more to the Dak situation. And I forget who it was. If I always try to give quotes or, give people their credit. But whoever said this, somebody out there said it on X and mentioned it, that Dak could end up having a Joe Burrow-like type setup where, Joe Burrow, that, they put up 35 and lose. That's what it looks like. Like Dak is just going to have to throw those bombs. Dak's just going to have to keep putting up the points to try and keep up. And like John said, schedule is not that great. So if they're getting scored on, which their defense is bad, you saw it last night. Someone said, Jalen Hurts RB1, like they make fun of Lamar for. I said Dallas D32. Like it was bad, man. So that's what I'm saying. I think Dak is going to be putting that spots, and Pickens might just be the guy that gets it because of that.
Yeah, it seems like they're intentionally trying to give him those shots down the field. And he makes circus catches all the time, so why not try to give him a difficult throw? He seems to be that type of receiver that when you up the degree of difficulty that he gets better somehow, like Brandon Lloyd, where if you tried to hit him on an open slant with no one around him, he would just take it off the face and drop it. But you put him in the middle of 8 guys and throw it up, and somehow he's coming down with one hand. Maybe it's a focus and the degree of concentration on these guys that works out a lot better. Final point, John. I don't know if you noticed it. I don't know if anyone noticed it, but it was my favorite thing from the game is that the animations when players score touchdowns have like the animated eagle or the animated cowboy hat next to their name. I just thought it was fantastic.
Hey, I didn't see it, but I did notice it. I was probably looking down to see how my fantasy lineups were updating after each touchdown. But yeah, I'm animated after the touchdown, so it's good that the screen is.
It's great, Tambo. I love it.
I will say bad marketing spend. I also stayed up super late. I was ready to go watching everything. I did not see that at all. So I'm surprised. I mean, you noticed it, so you're sharper, I guess, to catch it, but did not see that at all. Don't even know what you're talking about. And I watched the whole game.
Well, in fairness, I'm not playing Showdown lineups because I don't think I've ever won a cent playing Showdown. How'd you guys do in Showdown anyway?
Better than expected. I mean, you go in expecting to lose. I had a bunch of Javonte up top. We talked about it through on the show yesterday. I just didn't have. You need a Dotson to get to the top. Shout out to all those that won the 123K plus. I saw a guy, one of the guys I know, it's a really awesome dude named Grex 123 or 321. I forget. He crushed. And so, I mean, like it's a tough game because you need that. But I think I lost like $500 last night or $600 or something like that.
I like that. That's a win.
It's not a win. It's just, I'm saying it's like you can lose a bunch more too. I had position, I had spots. They didn't get there. That's really how it shakes out in Showdown.
How was it for you, John?
Actually, I finished second in the FanDuel big contest. So I think first place won $200,000. Yeah. And tied for second won $5,700, which is not bad. I'll take it. But I didn't have Jahan Dotson. That was the difference between the first place and the second place line.
So it was just Dotson, and there was a guy who had like the no dupe lineup and won 200K.
Yeah, there was a no dupe lineup that had Dotson.
How many people did you tie with?
Lots.
Yeah, it was pretty good. About 18. So not two. No, sorry, 23.
23. All right, and you can build. I believe that there are 2 lineup Showdown building tools on 4for4. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I believe so. So we're rolling out a new optimizer. We still have the legacy optimizer functional as well.
All right, yeah, so 4for4.com/Mayo can get you 25% off all of John's work, all of the tools you need to both build for Showdown, for what we're talking about today in the main slate when we start digging into the games. All of that is up there right now. We are going to get into each of the games, build some lineups, and try to come up with a good strategy for week 1. But first, I want you to smash the like, sub to the channel, and watch these ads. For over a century, Johnnie Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereux Golf, Johnnie Walker introduces the Johnnie Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, blue label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnniewalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly. Are you ready for some football? If not, Chubby's is ready to help you with their NFL collection. Whether you're tailgating, grilling, riding the highs and lows from the game from your couch, Chubby's has officially licensed NFL gear to keep you looking like an ultimate fanatic. Now, you know, for me, I just really personally love Chubby's because they come in 3 different lengths, which are perfect for me. I like to show a lot of leg, and I'm not a super tall guy. So if I end up getting a small, they come out below my knees, and I look like I'm trying to be Eminem from the late 90s, which is not really the look that I'm going for here. And they have some bold designs for the NFL, but I like my monochromatic shorts when I'm going out. Show off some nice tan, some nice legs, and boom, we are looking good out there. For a limited time, use my exclusive code MAYO for $10 off at chubbyshorts.com/Mayo. Yes, that includes the NFL collection. Let the thighs out and the good times roll. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/PatMayo and get on your way to being your best self. Sometimes we turn to some funny places for support, but not everyone's a therapist. Not everyone is the one. Find your right match with BetterHelp. I've turned to some weird places to solve my life's problems. Have you ever texted like a big buddy group chat? Yeah, that's probably not the best idea. What you need to do is actually talk to a quality therapist. And BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. It's also completely online. You can pause your subscription whenever you need to and switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PatMayo. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. Let's start this. Week 1, DraftKings. Let's try to win some money. Get our bankroll built for the beginning of the year. You can build your bankroll pretty easily. I'm giving away $250 to a lucky one of you if you subscribe to Mayo Media Network and smash the like button. Boom. And you got to leave a comment of your favorite DraftKings play. Low price, high price, mid price, whatever it is, someone you want to jam into every lineup, you leave that down in the comment section. There's one ballot. You sub to the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple and leave a 5-star review. There's 2 ballots. You do the same on Spotify. There's 3 ballots. Easy way to get in to that draft. Plus, the survivor pool is still open at Splash Sports. You can hit the description and go join. There's still like 4,000 spots remaining. A lot of people, I think like 20% of the group, moved ahead with Philadelphia. Myself and my 5 entries did the same thing, but still tons of time to get in, still tons of overlay, and there's $500,000 to the winner. Tambo, I'm going to start with you. What are the things that we need to know immediately about the week 1 slate? How does the pricing look versus what we're probably going to find in like week 13 or something?
Yeah, the pricing's definitely softer. Got to fill a bunch of these big contests. You talked about overlay in the Survivor Streets. There's overlay. There's not overlay, but there's a lot of big contests that they need to fill, and that, you know, even certain sites are allowing the money back and stuff. So it's not that they're anticipating or hoping for it, but if it happens, it happens. They want to make these lineups all look like all-star lineups, if you will. And when we're building today, there's going to be a bunch of lineups. I'm sure that we all 3 of us are like, oh yeah, that's the one. Like that should be $1 million right there. But the uncertainty is key to remember. You saw it last night. I think, you know, if you look at AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dak, all 3 of those guys, I believe, scored under 10 fantasy points. And that's on a single game slate. You can definitely have some huge disappointments in week 1. But on the flip side of that, the last thing I'll say here quick is just that week 1, we've literally had a username Chalk win the Millie Maker before in the first week. And that's the running joke is it's usually some good chalk out there. So you got to kind of, dance around those landmines, if you will.
John, anything stand out to you?
Yeah, so the pricing definitely is a little bit softer than we would expect, say 6 weeks from now. But also, I think the way the games are just concentrated in terms of lines and totals. We have a lot of the big high-powered offenses off the main slate. So I think 12 games, I think 11 of them have a total between 42.5 and 47.5. There's only one outlier there, which is the Jets and the Steelers. And then I think every line is within 8 points, and most of them are within 3.
Well, I ran the optimal at 4for4.com/Mayo. Get yourself 25% off. And if you get the upgraded Sharp Stack for the props and everything that is on there, you do get a free week to test that one out to see if you want it or not. So I highly recommend that you do it. But it gave me, I mean, Dayton, you can bring it up on the screen right now. It gave me Joe Flacco as a quarterback in a triple stack tempo with Tillman and Njoku, Taylor and Bucky Irving as the running backs, Puka, Egbuka, and Christian McCaffrey as a flex. Although it seems like now everyone is petrified of Christian McCaffrey, and we're filming this on a Friday morning. I think the Friday afternoon practice report will probably tell us the news about this new, all of a sudden, mysterious calf injury he has. But how much do you think this is going to play a factor in his ownership? Let's say he practices in full. Do you think people will still be scared off?
I'm not sure how it's going to go. Like, it just came out last night, and I think people were very interested beforehand. Maybe it plays in a little bit. It's week one. Like, I don't know. It's going to be tough to say, but we'll get the news before, so we'll have to wait and see. And if you need to late swap, you can late swap. You can set yourself up for that because it's an afternoon game, so you can make actionable moves there. I don't know what's going to happen with the news because it's always like every year. I said the season can't start till we get news like this, and of course it's CMC right out of the gates.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think everyone's like scarred from last season, right? Because I think we were expecting him to play up until a few hours before kickoff, and then he missed like 3 months. So yeah, it's a scary situation, but he's so underpriced. I think that if we should know hopefully going into Sunday whether or not he's going to play. The Friday injury report, this afternoon should give us a lot of information. Did he practice on Friday? It could definitely be precautionary, just veteran coming off an injury, skipping a Thursday practice, or it could, as we saw last season, it could be much more than that.
So with this lineup this is the one that the optimizers spit out for me, and you kind of nailed it on the head, Tambo. The lineup looks pretty good. Obviously, you're cheaping out at receiver, but I guess Njoku at $4,700 isn't so bad. Cheaping out at defense with the Giants. I do think the Giants will probably be one of the more popular cheap defenses this week. The Texans. I actually like the Raiders at $2,600. What do you guys think of that?
The defensive scoring is so random that I always like saving money if I can and going off the board. I think getting away from high owned defenses is a great way to play tournaments.
Yeah, I got the Raiders on my list also. And it also made me think of something as well. That when you said that, like John pointed out, I forgot to mention this, but like all those, it's almost like everyone knows that the Vegas stuff is sort of baked in and the numbers and whatnot, but it's also like week one for them as well. And all the spreads, all the totals are all kind of like throw it against the wall. It seems about right. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before though, when it was like Derek Carr and the Saints, and the game total was like 41.5 or something. And the Saints themselves put up like 47 and were the winners on the Millie Maker to kick off the year. So it's like nobody knows shit is the best way to put it for week one.
I did dump the tweet that I put out advertising this live show in the chat. If you're in the chat live watching along with us, as you can do every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, please click on that, share it around. That would help us out tremendously. Additionally, smash the like. And if you do want to comment in the live chat, you got to be sub. So go sub now. Do you think that the Flacco Browns Cincy stack, John, will end up being the highest DraftKings like team stack of the week?
Yeah, if I knew that, I'd be a millionaire maker winner. But I do think it's highly competitive, and I'm definitely inclined to spend down at some of these like off the board quarterbacks, like guys who are not going high in the redraft leagues and the best ball leagues. Like Joe Flacco is barely getting drafted in best ball, but we know he's playing week one, and we know that the Bengals defense can be pretty accommodating to opposing offenses. So I mean, it's actually a great way to stack that game, especially on DraftKings, where you can really get a lot of savings at quarterback. Like if you want to play Jamar Chase and maybe pair him with Chase Brown, and spend up for Christian McCaffrey and spend up elsewhere in your lineup, like playing Joe Flacco, then maybe grabbing some savings at tight end with David Njoku is not a bad way to go.
So let's try to rejig this lineup, Tammo. You know how we enjoy to do that. It seems like we should probably have someone from Cincinnati in this lineup. And I mean, do you want to inherit the risk of Christian McCaffrey here, or can we kind of move this around a little bit?
I think you can do a ton of different things with this. I mean, like the best way to answer your question that you brought to John, we'll move the lineup around in 2 seconds. I'm not avoiding it. I'm just saying like the common theme here is like the setup of you're getting $4,400 and $4,600 receivers. There is so many running backs. Even if you want to get out of Christian McCaffrey, there's everybody is in the 6s, the 7s, like that sort of range. If you go up to Bijan, he's just 8. There's no like extreme at running back. So almost all the builds will fit into this sort of mold, if you will. And you kind of got to think about that. As far as the Browns go, it's like Njoku is going to be a popular, even as a one-off. And then when you add in like the higher stakes, smaller field stuff, I think people do like a Joe Flacco at just 4,900. I think the way in my eyes, at least, to flip the build is to get after it from the other side. You know, me and Joey Burrow, but I think Jamar Chase, people will like. That's another thing about this build. You'll be able to fit Jamar Chase in it pretty easily if you wanted. You could come down off Puka and McCaffrey, get a cheaper running back or somebody else to get rid of that and go right up to Chase. But if I'm playing Chase in a large field tournament, lottery style, whatever you want to call it, I actually probably want his ceiling outcome, and as you would, but I think that's going to attach a lot more to Joe Burrow in more cases than not. So I would want to flip it that way. And I would think of it more as that's how I would play Njoku, and then get in Chase and then go to Burrow and then flip the build a little bit, not land on all the same cheapy wide receivers and mid-tier running backs.
Okay, let's do that then, John. I got Burrow, Chase, and Njoku as a shell for this game and this lineup. Would you add any other pieces from this game, do you think?
Burrow, Chase, and Njoku. So I do like the idea of overstacking. Somebody that I would look to add is maybe the other Chase Brown. He's a running back that catches passes. He's underpriced at 6,600 on DraftKings. There's not a lot of running backs that can put up like his workload at 6,600, especially with the passing game full point per reception. So yeah, I'd try adding Chase Brown.
Would it work too? Because we know that Njoku, as you mentioned, Tambo, is going to be popular as a one-off. Could you play Tillman at receiver? And I mean, even if you didn't want to play Chase Brown, play Burrow, Chase, and like Mike Gesicki and just pivot that way?
You can do a lot of things. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want. One thing I like that you said, though, for certain that I would be okay with is actually pulling Njoku out of this, playing Tillman as a piece that fits the game stack that we're going with. You can still keep the double Chase in there because nobody really stacks the running back with the quarterback, like John said. But the other point would be is he's pretty much the exact same price or he's like $200 less than double E, right? E squared that everybody's playing. So that'd be a way to do it and then move off the popular. Like right away, you cut into it. Even if someone says, oh, Joe Burrow is going to get a little bit of steam or whatever, who's actually playing Burrow, Chase, and Jamar Chase? Chase Brown and Jamar Chase, and then using Tillman to cut through that a little bit while still having a game stack and alleviating the salary the same way. So I do something like that instead.
I'm looking at early ownership projections, John. I see that Trevor Lawrence right now might end up being number one. Like it's quarterback, so nothing's going to get too out of control because there's no wild misprices. But it's like Lawrence, Daniel Jones, then people are going to pay up to the very top for Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Drake May. I was actually surprised not to see Flacco as high or even Joe Burrow, being this is probably what we anticipate to be the highest scoring game of the main slate.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit inclined to believe we'll see the more expensive quarterbacks see higher ownership than could be projected. Just because I think we're going to probably have the most casual crowd playing week one DFS that we will all season. And people are just fresh off those like redraft league drafts. So it wouldn't shock me to see Jaden Daniels come in a little bit higher, Joe Burrow come in a little bit higher, maybe see like Daniel Jones and Joe Flacco come in a little bit lower just because they're off the radar for the redraft players.
Do you think we should add another Brown into this, or does this 3-1 work for you guys? I'm
good with it.
All right.
Actually, I'll just say I don't mind Jerry Jeudy. I don't mind the idea that if we're playing Joe Burrow, when we're playing multiple Bengals pieces, that maybe that means the Browns had to do something on offense to elevate the Bengals passing game. And especially with like the Chase Brown reception. So like maybe a Jerry Jeudy long touchdown from Joe Flacco, is what gets there. That then spurs the Burrow and Burrow to the Chase's connection.
Do we think then, let's say we do that. We have Burrow, Chase, and Chase Brown. And then you go Tillman and Jerry Jeudy to pile in with the Browns. Tambo, does it then make sense just to play Flacco? Because if those two guys get there, Flacco has to get there?
Yeah, what I want to do actually, and this is again, like I did my levels to this and the penthouse stuff last week. If we're thinking like this now, and I like where John's going with it, I actually like pulling Burrow and Jamar Chase, because like I said, I really want them to unlock each other. This will get us back to a really good spot. So if we go back to Flacco, pull Jamar Chase, keep the 3-1, but keep Chase Brown in there, that's still a great spot. And maybe he gets it going on the ground for them. And that's what forces Flacco to throw and meet his targets with these guys. It's a super cheap triple stack without going to Njoku. And then I actually like the idea of either playing, and this again won't make sense. People are like, why are you even going here with this? But I actually like the idea of then playing either Bucky Irving or Cade Otton in this lineup. And it could be like in a single entry. I know a lot of people say we don't do content on that, but just the thought process to me is if we're making Tillman our E squared, then that's kind of a way that you could say, well, where else are my Tampa Bay points going to go to? If we're not using Njoku, to me, the obvious is like to put a Cade Otton in or to put a Bucky in and be able to do a Bucky. I think he's a good tournament play. I'm just saying, do we need him in this? Maybe not, but I wouldn't hate putting Otton where you're substituting Tillman and Judy for Njoku. You're not playing him. And then you're not playing Ibuka, and you're able to go to, or Egbuka, I should say, and then you're going to Otton there instead and filling out the onesie position that way. That's just my thoughts. Maybe John has something he can comment on there, but I think it's a similar thought to how he probably thinks.
So, yeah, I was thinking George Kittle, especially if we're not going to use Christian McCaffrey, right? Like maybe we're saying, okay, the Christian McCaffrey injury is a little bit, of a more of a real thing than we had been anticipating most of the summer. What if like that's probably going to give George Kittle some extra work? And I think the idea of, people playing Joe Flacco are going to be playing so much David Njoku that if we pivot, like I like the idea of a tight end pivot to another game that could be high scoring. And maybe trying to get some leverage off of the other lineup. So similar in the way that like instead of, if we're playing this main Cincinnati Cleveland game, we're kind of pivoting away from the Atlanta Tampa Bay game. Like, we could play Cade Otton and say that's where the offense is going for Tampa Bay. Or I don't mind the idea of playing George Kittle as a pivot from Christian McCaffrey.
So let's do that. Let's go Flacco, Tillman, Judy with Chase Brown at running back. We'll plug in Kittle Tambo into the tight end spot. What do we do with the other games? Do we look for a Seattle piece, or we just say, hey, Kittle is a pivot. We don't need to bring it back with anyone. Is there like a little mini game stack that we can get? A running back, wide receiver, something like that?
I think the biggest thing for me is when I get to this point in the lineup, and this is why it's nice to have the three heads to put together on this. And, even if we don't get to all the shells or less lineups, it's like better to have this thought process, I think, for a lot of people. Is what I'm looking at next is how much do I really need to get different at this point? Because if we've already got, Tillman and Judy coming in lower owned, it's cutting into the way people are playing Flacco. We're not playing someone as popular, like maybe Chase is more popular than Chase Brown on the opposite side. We have some McCaffrey leverage. And by the way, if McCaffrey plays, like you said, Pat, there could be some people that are timid to jump into that. So it's a thought process. But if he's out, I still think a lot more people would go right away to a backup as opposed to just running to the other spot. So I think Kittle makes a lot of sense to fill that gap where you're saying you're not getting Njoku. So how can you beat him? Let's do it with Kittle. And then it leaves you almost 6,000 left per spot, pretty close.
Brian Robinson, let's have that discussion now, John. That if McCaffrey is out, Brian Robinson is $5,800. Where do you think that he falls in the pantheon of running backs that are owned this week? Does he vault up near the top, or is his price high enough that it still keeps some people away?
I think the price is high enough. I think the price was probably set while he was still on the Commanders, expected to be the Commanders' number one running back. So that's not that great of a price. And he is not Christian McCaffrey. He does not catch passes. That's where Christian McCaffrey's value comes from. So he can pile up receptions like a wide receiver and add rushing yards and touchdowns on the ground. I would not make Brian Robinson like a major part of my lineups. I don't think at that price tag with his lack of receiving.
Is there any other sort of game that we can look at here? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where do we do, like, what do you think is the proper move here with the running back spot? Because I still like Devin A-Chain. I don't know how much people are going to own him. Obviously, he needs to get through practice to make sure that he's fine. All indications point to him being fine for this spot, but it does seem like Jonathan Taylor is going to be spit out in optimizers. I'm looking at GPP value. He's like off the charts good. And I don't think that we can probably do Taylor and A-Chain going against each other. But I think I would take A-Chain in that spot, mainly because of the pass catching and the fact that I think that people are down on him in week one.
Oh, you said down on him. I actually had a take right there that you just led right to. Perfect segue. I was going to say what you could do is Josh Downs is also the exact same price as Amika. And you could put him in and play him across from Achan and do that and get a little mini stack in that game. It's got almost a 47-point total in a dome. Not a lot of people are talking about this yet that I've seen, and it's a good setup. People are definitely talking about Achan, but I'm saying if you use Achan downs, you'd still have $5,700 left. That's going to get you a decent any defense you want, and or you can look at it this way. To be honest, I would get anybody else you want in that flex and just see where you land on defenses, and then start making a comparison. I like that.
So that's $6,900 and $4,600. That leaves you with a bunch because we still have a defense to plug in. The only other one I was really thinking about, John, like Bucky Irving, Drake London, just paying way up, trying to find a cheaper flex play right around like 5,500 and go with it that way.
Yeah, I'm really inclined to use Drake London this weekend, just because the Tampa Bay gave up the most receptions in the league last year. These teams like played some high scoring games last season. And Drake London looked so good. He had averaged, it was 3 games with Michael Penix, 117 receiving yards per game. I think he could be in for a huge season. So, yeah, it's a good game environment. I like the idea of getting a piece of this, or more pieces of the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game to our line.
So the other way you can finagle this, Tam, I'm just running through some like different combos that I'm pretty sure Bucky Irving is going to be popular and probably paired up with Drake London as a stack, at least a game stack in a lot of spots. What if we don't use Bucky? We use Mike Evans and Drake London. We throw in I'll throw in the Texans D for the moment at $2,500. It gives you $7,300 for a running back, which is everyone besides Bijan and Gibbs to fill out your lineup.
Yeah, to each their own in this spot. I prefer not to. Again, Evans is still definitely affordable to get there at 6,600. He still has a nice leverage spot off of the main value play that everybody's talking about that we've went through a ton here. I prefer to fill it out differently. I liked what you had. I like the Bucky play. He gets the job done on the ground. You get London across from them. I love that point that was made. It's a way you can play. The other thing I think about too is like a London versus an Evans. Not that it matters for this, but they're almost the same price. London can rack up like 8-9 catches and still crush and get the bonus. And maybe he gets a touchdown, maybe he doesn't, whatever. I feel like Evans is more reminiscent of like a Jamar Chase at a cheaper price, where if he gets there, it's going to be all the way. And then you're going to be looking at those Baker stacks that are popular and we'll probably talk about that hit. So we can stack him up differently in those. This lands you on the Texans and JT, or it lands you on Achan, the opposite side of that game, with a $2,400 defense like the Giants or something going up against Jaden Daniels. But it's up to you. I like what you got there right now. That looks pretty damn good. If you just land on Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, you can just land on Jonathan Taylor. I do want. It's funny because I like that game, John, the Dolphins and Colts game, but I really like the Miami side.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of my favorite games of the week. Just the number of explosive players in that game. That game could really take off. Like if it goes over the total, it could go way over the total, which is one of the things we like in DFS. But just the number of players that can just get the ball anywhere on the field and score. Devin Achan, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans. And we'll see how Emeka Egbuka looks. But yeah, he's not in that game. I crossed games. But yeah, the number of people in the Dolphins-Colts game that can score from anywhere, Jonathan Taylor, Devin Achan, Tyreek Hill. That's one of my favorite games.
So lineup number one, I'm going to submit this one into the $10. So don't steal my lineups here, but you can, and you'll probably lose because I always lose. Flacco with Chase Brown, Tillman, and Judy. You got Bucky Irving and Drake London going against each other in that game as the bring back. George Kittle is a one-off at tight end to replace where David Njoku probably would be to make this a little bit different. Jonathan Taylor at the flex and the Texans defense. I think all those guys are outside of George Kittle and the Texans defense, Tambo. I think it's all 1 o'clock games. Yeah,
love it. I think it's a good way to start it off and set it up. To me, it's like one of the better ways to think about a build and how you're building out, and some of the thoughts of like John and myself and yours blending together to make a lineup that actually makes sense for makes a lot of sense for pretty much any style tournament. There's at least like if Tillman, Judy, Bucky, and Houston are all sub 5% or somewhere in that range, maybe there's at least sub 10% most likely. That's not a bad spot in pretty much any tournament that you're in. And even if you're telling yourself a story for a single entry or a smaller field, it's not like you're in a bad spot. You're targeting a couple high total games, and then you're getting a few different leverage plays in there that make sense as well. So I like where we're at with the first one. And just so you know, Pat, in my projections, it's only 4 points off your original optimal that you had. And I just think it's constructed better for what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so John, can you walk people through that a little bit of like why this lineup, whether it's good or bad, who knows, but why it would be better, even at 4 points less, that it'd be better than that optimal that I mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so the straight optimal from any site is going to have extremely high ownership, just because there's so many people out there that are don't want to think about it too much. They're just hitting optimize. They're taking the lineup, they're putting it into the contest, and then they're wondering why, like they when their players scored, they didn't zoom up the leaderboards because everybody else had those players. So I think sticking in a couple of players that have sub 10%, sub 5% ownership, it cuts away so many other lineups when your players do well. They like if you have a 5% owned player and he scores a 60-yard touchdown, right? Like you're zooming past like 95% of the field. Whereas when that player is 60% owned, you're only zooming past less than half the field. So we also added correlation, right? We have multiple players from the same game with the Joe Flacco stack, and we did it, affordably instead of going with Joe Burrow, but we got some, low owned piece there. And instead of Tillman, I don't think Jerry Jeudy will see too high ownership, and a huge percentage of the Joe Flacco lineups are going to have David Njoku, where if it goes to receivers instead of the tight end, this lineup's going to do very well. Then the other thing I love about this lineup is just the multiple game stacks. We have guys playing off of each other in multiple games here. They're expected to be high scoring. So, yeah, I think this is a good lineup.
Yeah, the only other thing I could think about doing to this, if you really want to get tricky, is that instead of using Jonathan Taylor or Tambo, put in like T. Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a game. You can overstack a game. We've talked about this a ton in the past. I mean, the main thing with that is, and I think we even talked about it on last week's show, is it's usually better in like a smaller field. Because it could obviously be great in a large field. Again, we don't know till we know. The point is more that if somebody is, as if one of those spots gets hit, that's going to be the case. Like if Chase Brown really has the game that we need, is T. Higgins at 6,400 going to have the game that we need? And that's kind of the thought that is like the extra layers to this lineup. Like London is $100 more than Higgins. He's 100 less than Evans, but you're playing Bucky and you're playing Drake London. And Bucky also hurts all the Baker lineups, right? Because if it goes through the ground as opposed to the opposite. And then if you're not playing Njoku, well, who can beat him? How about George Kittle in a spot that, a CMC was supposed to be in? So again, you don't know until the results hit. This could be the last place lineup at the end of the week. It matters what you think about building the lineup going in. And that's where people, kind of got to come around to. It's about the process, not about the picks and the plays. Like nobody has any idea until after. And then when you see it at the end, of course, you know it all. But right now, we just have to build with sound process. That's what this is about.
Tambo has been making mention of a show that we did last week. It was the What to Do in DFS NFL for the season, whether it be DraftKings, FanDuel, how to construct lineups, what to think about, mistakes that you've made. That is up on the Mayo Media Network YouTube feed and the PME podcast feed right now. I'll put the link down in the description. After the live is done, it'll be down in the description and show notes of the podcast as well. If you want to go check that out, I highly recommend it. John, you're the new guest here, so you can pick the next game that we want to start with. Do you like Miami, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay, Atlanta? Is there like a Giants, Washington thing popping in the back of your brain? What is it?
I want to go to the Miami, Indianapolis game, just because I like the idea of maybe starting a lineup with Daniel Jones. He's projected for high ownership, relatively high ownership. I'm not sure I'd buy it, just with all the uncertainty this offseason, people still thinking he should be Anthony Richardson. I think people are underestimating Daniel Jones. We've seen this with multiple quarterbacks, right, who were picked very highly in the draft. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, where it takes to their second or third opportunity before they really shine. I think he's going to be in a good position this year in the Dome. So I'm not sure he's going to be as highly owned as we're seeing with projected ownership. And he can add something with the rushing game as well. So I like the idea of going to the Indy Miami game and starting with Daniel Jones.
It's funny, Tambo. I actually like the Tua side of this just because I know that Tua is not going to steal any of my points on the ground.
Yeah, the narrative from last night too, the old Hawk Tua with the spitting, we had it all set up, but I thought that's where John was going to go too. One thing I think is completely interesting, and it still fits this game just fine. I love being in this spot. I think that more people like the running backs. I like both the passing spots. Daniel Jones fits that Derek Carr spot that I talked about. Like if he just came out and blasted everybody, you'd be like, whoa. But could he? Absolutely. So it would make sense from that perspective. But also the Tyreek Hill spot, on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, he's more dead than AJ Brown after last night's results, and he's still worse than him to people's minds right now. But you have Waddle, you've got other options on that side. So I actually think this game is interesting, and both passing games. I'm interested to see how it sets up. Maybe we end up starting with Daniel Jones like we did with Burrow last time, and then we flip to the Flacco side. Maybe that happens, but I certainly think this is a good spot to go to, and I like the passing game as well.
So, John, what do you put in here for both sides? Like, I just threw in Tyreek just because, I mean, big play guy. You could say the same thing about A-Chain. You can go whatever way that you want here. But what do you do on the Indianapolis side if you're using Daniel Jones? Is it like, I mean, are you going to a tight end? Are you going to go like Downs Pittman, Downs Pierce? Like, what's the move here with Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I think Josh Downs is preposterously underpriced at 4,600. So I definitely like going in that direction, but I like the idea of double stacking it. So I think you can add Pittman. You can add the tight end as well. It's a little bit Tyler Warren. Like it's a little bit nerve wracking because we've never seen him in the NFL before. But that he's only 4,400. That's going to create some uncertainty. People might be scared to go there after the Colts like split everything amongst like 4 different tight ends last season. But yeah, so I don't mind the idea of going with Tyler Warren. And that's going to, again, cut off a lot of like David and Njoku lineups.
So with the Miami side, is it Tyreek? Is it A-Chain? Is it both of them? Like, how do we do that?
Go ahead. Yeah, I like the idea of going with Tyreek Hill. I think either is really good, but Tyreek Hill people are so down on Tyreek Hill, until he goes out and scores an 80-yard touchdown indoors, right? So I like the idea. If we're playing this game, I like the idea of getting Tyreek Hill into the lineup.
All right, so yeah, Tambo, it's Daniel Jones, Downs, Tyler Warren right now with Tyreek Hill as the bring back.
Yeah, I was gonna say either or, because I think like the good news is now you've got. I don't care what anyone says. To John's point, if Daniel Jones is going to be chalk, sure, but I don't see it. So I'm fine with him already by himself and just running it down. But no, like the Downs, Tyreek, Warren. This is where, again, I made this joke with somebody the other day, is like sometimes people go to a lineup like this and it's like they kind of like hit the curb a little and then corrected their vehicle. And you can do that here by just playing whatever you want now, because you don't even have to think about ownership. This is such a low owned setup going into a Millie Maker or whatever it is you're playing. Some people, though, get on this path and then they want to keep going. And so they're the ones that are driving off the cliff and driving down the road and just driving into the ditch. So I think once you have this stack set up, Pat, you can get away with whoever you like at the other positions and targeting different game environments that you see fit, because it's already set up well to start off.
All right, well, let's try to go through that exercise then of filling out the rest of this lineup, John. If money is no object, which it's not really here, like if you could play any defense, who would you play? Would it be the Broncos?
I think I'd probably go with the Broncos. But they could see some ownership. But I like the idea of maybe putting in the Broncos, and then we adjust down at defense if we see the need to get a skill position player who's more expensive.
Yeah, for per GPP score this week, we've already mentioned the 2 names. It's McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor Tambo that stick out. Are there better price points or better plays, do you think, if we're just not going to worry about ownership?
When I'm not really worrying about ownership here, I like a couple different options. I like the Chase Brown play that was mentioned earlier. Regardless if he picks up steam or not, it's still a nice place to go in that game. I actually like James Conner at 6,100 as well. We played the Houston D in the last one. I think that's, just another interesting thing. I'm seeing that Williams is getting a little bit of steam, but I kind of liked him coming in also. So there's a bunch of different ways you can go here, but I like, if we're going to stick to targeting some of those other spots that we were already in, like we're not on Flacco, we're not on Burrow, we're not on that stuff. Chase or someone like that doesn't make a ton of sense with this setup. I'd be fine to go right back to Chase Brown here to start it off and just plug one in.
Is Chase Brown, John, your favorite just objective running back play here? Because it seems like you've talked about him a bunch.
It's a tough call. So we'll see if Christian McCaffrey suits up, right? At only 7,300, I think he'd be difficult to get away from if it looks like this Thursday practice thing was just a Veterans Day off. If Christian McCaffrey is not available, then yes, I think Chase Brown's maybe my second favorite there. And I don't mind if we're stacking our main stack as a game other than Cleveland Cincinnati. I think putting Chase Brown as a one-off is not a bad move at all, right? It's like, what if that game just turns into a rushing game? What if the Bengals do pretty well, but then they're just feeding the ball to Chase Brown? And that game is not the game we wanted to have as our main stack. Like, then you want to have Chase Brown as a one-off in a different game stack.
Oh, so let's just go Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey. And then, if it doesn't work out that McCaffrey's not playing, we can take him out and sub him in. That leaves us a flex and a wide receiver and 57.50 left per. So you said the ownership probably doesn't matter here, Tambo. Could you do something like, I don't know what's the ownership on Neighbors going to be like? Because I want to play Malik Neighbors.
I'm not seeing anything out of hand right now early on, but it doesn't look too crazy. Maybe, 10 to 12% currently is what I'm seeing.
All right, so I want to throw him in and see what I have left. I got $4,500 left, which weirdly brings us down to that zone that we talked about before, John, where Igbuka is down there. He's probably going to be the chalky play at $4,600. If I had the extra $100, Tambo, I'd play my guy Shaheed, but he's a bit too much right now as well. That leaves us with like Mims, Ricky Bullets is there, Evan Ingram is there. We talked about Cedric Tillman before, and we do have Chase Brown already. Does Cedric Tillman become the play here, John?
We could play Cedric Tillman, and he's a pivot off of the Chase Brown. I'm wondering. So we'd have to boot Malik Neighbors, but I wonder, could we do like a McMillan and Brian Thomas wide receiver pairing as a secondary stack from another game and drop down in price at defense?
Let's see. We go to 10. I mean, 10 at 52 is a pretty good price, and we have to save $500 at defense if we end up doing that. So let's get rid of the Broncos. And that leaves us like Steelers D at $3,300 is our best option, which I do think is a pretty good option. But Tambo, I think it's going to be a very, very popular option here.
Yeah, don't really care as much. Again, like I said, you have Daniel Jones, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, and Tyreek Hill. Like, that's what I'm saying. And I loved John's point earlier, because doing these shows with Pat for many years, I'll say two things. One, he actually is very good at sort of selecting a defense pool, where most of us are like, it's so hard, let's just go random on it. It gets there randomly. He's better at, thinking about the backups coming in when people just auto want to go to them, and it's going to be more of a running game. But I know, John, he loves to add a defense early into his lineups, and you said it perfectly. Let's throw the Broncos in, and if we got to move down, we can. Look, I love this lineup right now, Pat. It projects almost identical to the optimal. And I don't care if the Steelers get steamed or not, and the fact that it's got McCaffrey, Brown, whatever, because look at all the other guys that we have in it that are unique.
I would say this, John, like the Steelers D is there. I'd rather drop down another $400 and use the 49ers D. I just like them better as a fantasy play.
I'll say, so we could do, what if we expect Christian McCaffrey not to play? We just go to Devin Achane, and we've got a huge stack of this game. And then we've got even more money to play with. Yeah, we drop down to the 49ers defense and leave, I guess, like 800 on the table for using Achane. I don't know. There's a lot of options we can go with the defense here.
Well, the other thing that you could do as well, I mean, I guess we didn't end up using Tillman. What about this? This is going to sound very silly, but we have this entire lineup constructed. Daniel Jones, Chase Brown, Achane, Tyreek Hill, Downs, Ted McMillan, and Brian Thomas with Tyler Warren at tight end. Here's a defense that's expensive that no one is using and correlates with Chase Brown, Tambo, and against some very popular plays. Bengals defense.
You're learning. That's good. I like it. That's what we want to see. Yeah, it's perfect. I think it's a great spot. And it's, like you said, it's not just the Bengals defense correlates with Chase Brown. It's most people are playing Njoku. They're not going to be playing him against the defense. Other people are playing different options in there. We're not going to Tillman we're not going to that secondary stack. Our secondary stack is instead running back DST. We've seen over the years, it's not as popular or required as much anymore. But the main thing is here, it makes a ton of sense, and it actually goes against the Flaccos of the world, the Njokus, all that stuff. So I love that lineup. I think that one is a nice setup. And I think it's a good combination there of putting different teams and spots together, kind of like we did in the first one. It still projects very close to the original optimal.
John, is that just too much of a galaxy brain move using like the world's shittiest defense?
No, it's just so perfect. It makes me want to cry. We're correlating the running back with the defense. We've got a secondary wide receiver stack with Brian Thomas and McMillan, and then we're overstacking, a cheap quarterback who can add some rushing yards with like explosive offensive players from the same game. I don't know. This is what it's all about.
Can't expect to win a milli week one without McMillian.
Oh, McMillian. And the other in Tampa, McMillian's not playing, so it works out even better. This has to be this. I mean, the big giant head here, Tet McMillan, is going to be the guy then.
I like it.
All right, Tambo, you get to pick the next game. I picked the first one. John picked the second one. You can go to one now.
Let's see here. What do I want to do?
Tampa, Atlanta?
No, I was actually looking at a couple different ones. I was looking at Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix is the two guys that I was looking at.
I was trying to think of how this works with Denver. Like, do you just go like Nick Sutton and just call it a day?
Definitely Sutton. Yeah. I think you could do that, but I also think you could also plug in Marvin Mims is 4,500. You could see if you can get something going at tight end. I mean, there's different ways to go, but you don't need to go that far with it. But it was partially because, yes, I like Sutton. I also think Sutton ends up being like a play that's going to go well with this quarterback if he hits. And then we know what Bo Nix can do with his legs as well. So I think you could go just Bo Nix and Sutton to start it off.
I have those two in. John, my problem here would be like when you play, and it was almost a sort of everyone on the Colts was so cheap, so it made a ton of sense to put it in. But when I have a rushing quarterback like this, and maybe I'm dead wrong, I feel like I don't want to necessarily overstack those guys because so much of his highest ceiling outcome is going to be if he rushes in 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we put Bo Nix, similar to like Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, like if we are putting in a rushing quarterback, we're assuming he's getting some of his some of his outlier points that give him an outlier score are coming from the ground. So you can absolutely kind of skinny stack that with just one receiver, as you see with like, you'll play like a Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. You can just play like Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton.
Do we need to have anyone from Tennessee? Because there are 0 players from Tennessee I want to play this week.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, again, it's a week 1 thing. It's with the soft pricing. There's so many other guys that can get there. So that's one of the, I think it's a very common leak in week 1. Obviously, you could see the winning lineup be overstacked, have run backs, etc. You probably will. But I'm saying like people that just assume you can't just put these good plays together in some way, shape, or form and get a pretty good lineup out of it. And the main thing is you don't need to force the other side at all, because for every Tennessee run back that you're like, but I needed to fit my stack, you could find somebody else at the exact same price or similar that's actually a great play this week and just play them.
So let's do that. Let's try to feel like you have a ton of money left, obviously, with this lineup.
I already built the nuts with this whole lineup.
Hit me.
It's just, for a milli maker, it's going to be chalky. So it's like I was just trying to build like a single entry spot where Bo Nix and Sutton are enough to get different. But you can plug in Achane. So plug him in, and then you can put in Chase Brown across from Njoku.
Chase Brown across from Njoku. Okay, I like this.
Now you put London across from Egbuka, and then you land on the Giants D, because you can't play Cleveland at 23 or anybody else that's there, and you just go against my other guy, Jaden Daniels. This is why like people look like at my portfolio. I just said I wanted to build with Jaden Daniels. Well, I'm not building with any Washington guys here, so I'm missing San Francisco, but maybe their situation is murky. Other than that, I've got Miami Indy, I've got Cleveland Cincy, I've got Tampa Bay Atlanta, and I got Bo Nix and Sutton, which I don't know if people will get to $6,300 Bo Nix with $6K Sutton. So I like lineups like this, and maybe it's more for like a higher dollar, smaller field, but this projects, actually in my projections, projects 2 points better than the optimal that you had.
What was the flex play here?
I have James Conner, Chase Brown, and Achane are the total.
James Conner is the one. What do you think about a lineup like this, John?
Yeah, I like it. It has a lot of the elements we were talking about before. We were saying you don't necessarily need a run back, right? If Cortland Sutton gets 2 touchdowns, Bo Nix adds 1 on the ground with some rushing yards. This lineup can absolutely hit without like a Calvin Ridley, who's probably the guy I'd be most likely to go with in this lineup if I was going to do a run back. I was going to say, so I like the James Conner call. We could also do a double tight end, and we could put George Kittle in there. That gets us some of the San Francisco, I think. Let's see if the prices work. But I think either one is a good call. I do think James Conner is going to see pretty good workload, especially week 1 for Arizona against New Orleans. That could be a game that Arizona controls on the road, in the indoor environment. So either or. But I like this lineup as well as the other ones.
Would it be one of those things where you could use?
Did you like
go ahead?
Who'd you say at D earlier?
What's that?
I thought you said you liked Las Vegas at D earlier.
I do. Yeah, you could go Kittle. I was going to say you could go Kittle Vegas if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting too. So, and it gives you a piece of the San Francisco spot, like John said. And when it's in Njoku and Kittle as your double tight end, I mean, that's, can be two. What did it say what you want to say about, Njoku versus Judy and what it actually matters? But Njoku can be a wide receiver 1 for a game. We've seen it. Kittle can be the guy when the way their receivers are set up, he could have a huge year. So I think that's a good lineup. And look how balanced it is. Even when you're adding in Egbuka, you have basically all like 6K wide receivers that we know can stack 20 to 30 points. So I think setting lineups up like this are fine. Some may say maybe not enough leverage to win the Millie Maker, but it's week 1. You don't know till you know. And honestly, just some of the stuff being off the board enough and just sometimes putting yourself in the right places in those games that you think it's going to be, this would be the way to set it up.
So let's do the Jaden Daniels. Let's start with Jaden Daniels. I like that idea, and it gives me every opportunity to play Malik Neighbors, which I really want to do this week. So I'm going to throw Neighbors into this one. How do you build around Jaden Daniels, John?
So Jaden Daniels for this week, I like the idea of so I love the idea of playing Malik Neighbors, right? Like that's something that's gonna Neighbors has a big game. That's gonna be something that like takes the lid off of the Washington offense. Rather than going, because I think people are going to say like, oh, let's go with Terry McLaurin. But we've seen these wide receivers that come, late to camp. They maybe start off a little bit slow. I don't mind the idea of putting like a $5,200 Deebo Samuel in as our pairing with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
Deebo.
That's where I was going with it as well. Just heads up. That's my thought for sure is like it's a fair enough price. You don't know much about it. It literally fits exactly what our motto has been today. Like you don't know. It's week 1. So that's kind of the whole point. And at 5,200, he needs to do something for sure. He's not free, but he's not like 7K. And we already have a 7K Neighbors on the other side. Neighbors is always the type of guy I like because you don't need to have him with his quarterback at all. He can just literally rack up like 10 catches for 150 and that's it. But that's a massive score. And will be nice at 7K. So I like that setup to start it off for sure. And then you can start filling it in.
Yeah. Do you think this is unique enough where we can not necessarily jam every other popular play in here, but keep along the same themes that we've been doing?
I'll try to keep things correlated, right? There's so many good games this week. I like what we've done. Like each of the lineups we've done so far has had 3 game stacks in it somehow, right? And you add like the Chase Brown and then the Cincinnati defense, right? That kind of correlation where it's like, oh, that game is just lower scoring than we expected, right? But that's why we're not stacking that game. So yeah, I think we can add some popular pieces, but try to add popular pieces in pairs instead of ones.
Yeah, that's how I was like filling it out as well. And that's where you could start to cut into it a little bit. Like you hit on those spots other people are going, but then try and do it in a slightly different way if you can.
So with running backs, we've been using Chase Brown and Devin Achane a lot here. Is there anything else? Like we talked about Ted McMillan and Brian Thomas earlier. Would we want to do like Chuba Hubbard and Brian Thomas? Like I like Chuba Hubbard a lot, both this year and this week. I don't see a reason just at $6,000, no one's going to use him.
Be a little bit worried about the Rico Dowdle.
Really?
Yeah, like because we just don't know how it's going to go, and maybe that's just. Uncertainty that we should be embracing. I don't mind the idea. So something I don't think we've done so far, but maybe take a little bit of this the New Orleans Arizona game and get away from Njoku with like Trey McBride and Alvin Kamara.
What about Shaheed and McBride?
Yeah, Shaheed. When Shaheed puts up a big game, he puts up a big game. So I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah,
it's going to be very low owned.
25 or 0, Tambo, the Shaheed experience.
Yeah, we like that, though. There's a couple things on that I'll add quick. So he's also same price as Egbuka, and he's a big hitter. Like if he hits, he hits. And the nice thing about it is there's not going to be much. Like usually when somebody like that hits, you're like, damn, well, that's going to kill me now because, everybody's got it. But no, like not many people are going to have stacks with Shaheed. So having him as the one-off is fine versus like if Egbuka can kill Baker stacks or he can make Baker stacks required, that's much riskier for like a large field tournament. Shaheed's going to put you ahead, give you that leverage still, and you're not like, well, shit, someone's going to come through with the quarterback as well. It just doesn't feel like that. So I like that idea. And by the way, I do like Trey McBride quite a bit as well. I like that Arizona spot. And I think that's an interesting one because it has one of the lower totals than what we talked about earlier, but I'm happy John brought it up because I've mentioned Connor. Now we're talking about McBride. We've got Shaheed. We've got Alvin Kamara. Like there's definitely guys within that game that we can see make it happen. And we just talked about the Saints with Derek Carr situation. Like maybe that's the spot again. I don't know, but this is a good start. I like this build.
It's also indoors as well. And the only other indoor game that we really haven't gone to at all is the Houston Rams game. But I cannot, outside of Puka, Kyron, maybe Nick Chubb, although Nick Chubb doesn't catch any passes. And if that doesn't happen, like he's just going to, even if he scores 2 touchdowns, it feels like he still almost fails versus some of these top running backs.
Yeah. I don't love that either too. I'm trying to think about it out loud here, but just like, yeah, I don't love that for sure. And then the other thing is this build kind of puts us, even with the Shaheed spot in there, it still puts us in like got to spend down a little bit at running back. So that's another thing that will get us different. We might have to hover into that sort of 5K range at running back, if you will, or something along those lines, as opposed to the standard build that most are landing on with all those guys in the 6K being an option. Like you could go to Kenneth Walker, opposite of whatever the hell happens in San Francisco this week, and they're trying to figure it out, and you'd be able to do that, and it's not that crazy. They're at home, and they're only 2-point underdogs. Like it's not that crazy.
It's funny, John, because Kenneth Walker, where he hadn't been practicing a ton in the preseason, I kind of worry about Charbonnet stealing a little bit of his work early to make sure they keep him fresh for when they do want to make him the bell cow versus, it's funny because I mentioned Hubbard. Like I don't worry about that with Hubbard. I feel like Hubbard's kind of locked in for 17 to 25 touches in this game. But that's me. But we could look at something like, Genty I hear is very good. Like, should we consider him, even though it doesn't seem like anyone wants to touch any part of that game? Like, could you do Genty, Demario Douglas, something like that, save some money? Then you still have one big bullet to spend on Bijan or Gibbs or something.
I don't mind the idea of putting like James Conner into this lineup and making it an overstack of the New Orleans Arizona game. I'll say that if we actually stick in Kamara and James Conner, we can have a pretty interesting lineup, but we'd have to use the Browns defense. That's not going to be highly owned on this week when a lot of people are using Bengals players. But yeah, I don't know. I'll say I don't necessarily love the Vegas Patriots game, just because it's got one of the lower totals. It's outdoors. The teams can play slow, but I don't know. I'll defer to your discretion here.
Well, let's see. If we play Kamara and Connor, we have 2 pass catchers and 2 running backs from that game, but we don't have the quarterbacks. We have Daniels with Debo and then Neighbors. I threw in Tet McMillan as the flex. Who is it that you recommended for flex? Sorry, because we can go up $100.
He was saying keep Tet, and then we land on the opposite of what most are playing, some sort of Bengal, by having the Browns D in there. It's another way to get after it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Browns D a lot. It's funny, when I was scanning the bottom of the defenses, I think they're a far superior play to the Giants. And listen, Burrow can still score a bunch of points, and Browns D can score a bunch of points too. It's not mutually exclusive that one can't beat the other.
I'll say this, this looks like a weird lineup, but like we said, week 1 last year, Arizona exceeded their game total with just their offense. So, New Orleans, exceeded their game total, with just their offense. So, expect the unexpected in week 1. We're probably playing more Saints than the Cardinals than most people in this lineup, but I think that's okay.
Can we finagle this around, Tambo? That we'll play that one and we'll go back to it. We started out with the Jaden Daniels type of move there. What if we just get rid of Daniels and we go to? Can we use Kyler in this spot?
Yeah. I like Kyler, like I said, and if we're overstacking like this, I'd be fine. He gets you a little bit more money that then you could start to make your decision on those last couple of spots. You might be able to get somebody else in there. But I've got right now, if you've got Murray, Connor, Kamara, Shaheed, Debo, Neighbors, McBride, it leaves you a flex and a defense with 4,100. So, I mean, and you could do, I don't know, you could put McMillan and 3,000. You can put Egbuka with 3,600. You can put who else can you put in there?
Could you do Harvey and Broncos D? Does that work, or is that too much money? Yeah, it gives you 44. And who was the 44 receiver? There was one. I think it was Tillman.
Yeah, I think it was.
It
you
is
go Xavier Leggett off of Ted McMillan.
Yeah,
you
that's
can,
another good call.
you can go Tet down to Tillman. You can take Browns up to Broncos in that way. Just be like, oh yeah, the Broncos D absolutely crushes in this game and just annihilates Cam Ward and scores touchdowns.
Broncos gets you to, yeah.
What about getting rid of James Conner in Tillman and using Marvin Harrison in the flex, not using Conner, and then finding another running back?
It's Marv.
Yeah, like I'll just get rid of. I'll go back down to Browns just to have it at $2,300. That gets us back up to 65. You got to have like Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams would become like kind of the best guy there.
Yeah, that lineup looks pretty good too, and you can still land on Cleveland or you can land on the Giants, whichever you prefer, because you're now not. Oh no, we got Debo in there, so yeah, not that you couldn't play that. I mean, you obviously could, but just no need in all the games. So yeah, I like that. It lands on Cleveland, and it's about equal to your optimal originally with a way lower, with way lower owned options within that lineup. Just completely different lineup altogether. Still the overstack helps Kyler if he's hitting those two receivers, and then yeah, this lineup makes sense too.
Yeah, the only other thing with Christian Kirk out, John, should we be considering Nico Collins a little bit more, do you think?
I think so, yeah. I actually was just looking at that this morning to see that his receiving yards jumped, I think, 6 yards. His receiving yards prop jumped about 6 yards with the news that Christian Kirk is going to be out. So I think you should always be considering Nico Collins. He's one of the best guys, in terms of long touchdowns. So you should always be considering him, and probably even more so now with Christian Kirk confirmed out.
Well, looking at it, so I'm going to take out Neighbors. I'm going to put in Collins, and I'll move Harrison from the flex into the wide receiver spot. That gives us $4,800 for a flex right now. I mean, Jalen Higgins is in that game, but we've already used Collins. But we have Williams and Nico now going against each other. The only other move we can really do, like Eckler's an option. Who's there? Damian Pierce, don't like that. Oh, we can just play Njoku. We do double tight end, Njoku and McBride.
So wait, do we still have Debo and Malik Neighbors?
No. I took out Debo and Malik Neighbors.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say Eckler doesn't, is not a bad addition to that little mini game stack. But yeah, okay, so we'll scratch the Eckler.
But other than that, like you end up with Browns, D, and Njoku. Like, does that matter at all? Do you think?
No. I don't think it matters at all. It's just a matter of like what you like to finish it out, like how you're thinking about it when you're building. So for this spot, it's kind of all you have left. The alternative, I guess, is to go to Seattle defense because you're not playing a San Francisco piece or something like that. But again, that's where the defense stuff just is variance. Whatever. If that happens, that'd be an argument someone could make. Yeah, you should have played Seattle because if you weren't playing any San Francisco. But we're looking at it right now beforehand, so we're just saying where we landed. It's fine to have those two guys in there.
All right, last thing before we finish this off, we'll get off. I'm going to enter that lineup and we can get off building lineups. There does seem to be a bit of rain in a lot of these outdoor games, John. Does that affect your process at all? Or because that's factored into the line by the time that we get to the game, that it just doesn't make a difference to you?
Yeah, well, so we'll see what the weather report, like what the final weather report ends up being on Sunday. It can be pretty difficult to predict these things a couple days in advance. Usually it's baked into the line, though. I do like to keep the pregame shows on, though, just because if you see the sideline reporter being blown around on the field or trying, having difficulty getting her footing just on the sidelines, like that's something you want to consider. But usually it's going to be baked into the lines, and you don't necessarily want to double count.
All right, Tambo, any final thoughts on the week?
No, I like that point. And you mentioned the show we recorded last week is still very valid. If people want to go back and check that out, I know a lot of people did already and gave some good feedback on sort of our thoughts going into the season and strategy. But week one, a lot of uncertainty. You got to sort of look out for those landmines and build accordingly. Hopefully this was helpful for us to go through it.
All right. So, Tambo, you're going to be live, you said 10 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday mornings on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel?
Yep. Myself, Hoop, and our guy Title will be live for week one on Sunday. We've got a show today as well for Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern for the Friday Night Football game live as well, talking Showdown.
Yeah, we're going to be live here every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. John, you are going to record the 4 for 4 DFS show on Friday afternoon, right? You got some good guests?
Yeah, so I'll be on 12:30 Eastern time, the DFS MVP show. We've got Pat Green, we've got Davis Maddock, we've got Neil Orfield. Going to be a 4-man booth, so we're going to try to keep it to an hour. We'll see how that goes with that crew. And then I might have another show that's coming out recorded a show that I've done in the past called Solo Ship with JM to Win. And so we're hoping to get that recorded today, and that'll be out probably later tonight.
Excellent news. If you want to get access to all the tools and John's work, you can go to 4for4.com/Mayo. Get yourself 25% off right now. I'm going to be going through the optimizer, trying to figure out some more of these lineups and make my stacks and put everything in, because I'm always going to overspend in week one. I'm trying to budget, but I've already lost a ton of money, so I might as well just keep adding to the pile, see if I can dig myself out. Smash the like while you're here, sub to Mayo Media Network, and I will see you next time.